this is all very interesting. This is a Washington Post piece that has this story, by the way. They said Putin's not going to withdraw completely from the treaty. That's what he had said in his remarks. Russia's not going to completely withdraw. That's been extended to run through February 4th, 2026. But what Russia is going to do is not allow NATO companies to inspect its nuclear arsenal. So he accused the alliance of helping Ukraine. So that, I think those are two different things. I mean, do I trust them? No. I don't even trust my own government. The hell so I'm not going to trust Russia's. But I do think that those are kind of two different things. I want to caution you on something that I've seen emerging even on circles on the right. Never, ever be herded into groupthink on something. And Kane and I were talking about this on break. If you bring up the nuances in this Russia conflict with Ukraine, then people allege that it is as though you're justifying Russia's invasion, which is absolutely stupid statement, because nobody does. I get aggravated that I have to dumb down oftentimes commentary to a Fisher Price level to explain this to the drive-bys and the people who are trying to herd everyone into groupthink. They act like it's an either or. And I said this yesterday, that, there's a lot of nuance here. And it's not an either. It's bad that they invaded Ukraine. Also, Ukraine are not angels, but that doesn't mean that they deserve to be invaded. I mean, do you see how goofy this is? Just like this situation here with the START Treaty. All the headlines are saying that Moscow's suspending its participation. Now, in the second graph of this Washington Post piece, Putin says Russia's not going to withdraw completely, which has been extended to run through February 4th, 26, but that they will not allow NATO countries to inspect their nuclear arsenal. So that means you'd have to have a third-party non-NATO member. And he accused the alliance of helping Ukraine conduct drone strikes on Russian bases. The treaty, if you didn't know what it was, is a 2011 treaty, and we've had these since the end of World War II, and the fall of the Soviet Union, placed what they call verifiable limits on the number of intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear warheads, et cetera, and limitations on strategic offensive arms, and that's what the START Accord was. And they said, Putin said in his speech, quote, "Our relations have degraded, and that's completely and utterly the U.S.'s fault." I disagree with that. Now, Blinken told reporters earlier, they said Western officials were alarmed at Putin's decision. And Blinken said that the announcement by Russia that it's suspending participation is deeply unfortunate and irresponsible. Now, I just want to go back. I would love to read a translated transcript, because there's a major difference. And remember, everything is info operational. They say that in his remarks, they're not going to withdraw completely. They're just not allowing NATO countries to inspect their arsenal. What I don't understand is how the United States under this administration and under the Obama-Biden administration, when Iran said that they weren't going to allow the United Nations to inspect their nuclear sites, the United States, Barack Obama and Joe Biden telling everyone, no, it's okay, we can trust Iran. They're not doing anything. They're not building their nuclear capability. And so Putin, correct me if I'm wrong, which I don't believe I am, he's not saying that they're withdrawing entirely from the treaty. He's saying NATO can't inspect it. So why don't they get the Iranian treatment? I'm just wondering. This is weird, is it not? But see, here's where I was warning you. Don't be herded into groupthink, because there will be people who say, wait a minute, you're telling us that he's not withdrawing completely. It doesn't matter. Are you using Putin talking points? I see people on the right, some of them, I think they're their own psyop. You can't trust Twitter at all anymore. There's so many fake accounts and so many like established identities that are used strictly to just try to undermine the credibility of certain arguments and spin certain narratives. I do not trust a single damn bit of it. It is an entire intelligence playfield. Not even joking. You cannot trust, in an era of information, you have to trust everyone, really not at all, and yourself only. It's weird to say. It's very weird to say. And can you bring up a point? Don't just put it in Slack.
Yeah. Well, one is the UN, right, with Iran. The other one was NATO, which is obviously Russia has had a thing about NATO for the longest time, as long as I can.
No, yeah, there's the difference.
And
between
there is
the
a
NATO
huge
and
difference
the UN.
on the national, the unification nationally of these countries, and then NATO, which is actually the European portion of that. So there is a slight difference, and I think that Putin being that specific actually does, it's a little nuance that people are overlooking.
And then I question, well, why are they overlooking it? We're not stupid people. Right. I mean, are we overlooking it in order to fan the flames of hyperbole so that we get people more and more outraged, and they view this, instead of as a negotiating tool, as an act of aggression? Dude, you all need to watch the second series of Jack Ryan. Holy cow. I am not even kidding. Do me a solid. Do me a solid. Have never steered you wrong. Now, some of my anime stuff and that, yeah, it's not for everybody. Juan's laughing. Shh. Yeah. But this, dude, best show streaming. Watch the first season of Jack Ryan, and then watch the second season of Jack Ryan. You're going to watch the second season of Jack Ryan, and you're going to come back to this show at this table as a new person. You're going to be like, dude, you're going to get it. You're going to totally, I don't know. It's just like seeing the Matrix. I don't know. Like, no, the actual Matrix, the code in the air. I mean, it's just bizarre. Yeah. So I just think, man, what a time. I'm just very, I think that nuance is important, and here's why. Because they are a wounded and depleted country. What do they got? They've been feeding all their men into the war feeder, spitting them out all over Ukraine. They are hurting. Granted, they had a boost to their dollar, or ruble, from lockdown and oil and gas and all this other stuff. But, they're broke for all intents and purposes. They're not doing too well. Putin has to also manage the palace intrigue. His health is in legitimate question. I don't know who's more addled, him or Biden at this point. And so they are in a precarious position. And so this is a way of negotiating that. I mean, they could have said that, actually, it's the third season of Jack Ryan. Third season. They could have said, oh, we're just going to withdraw entirely. They used the word suspending, and then they said, but not completely. We're just not allowing NATO to inspect it. Now, they don't trust NATO. They're hostile to NATO. NATO was entirely created because of Russia. Looking at this very clinically, you have to understand why your opposition holds the position that they hold. And so that you can better respond and understand. People nowadays look at that as though you're compromising or something, which is so stupid. People are just tone deaf on diplomacy. And diplomacy doesn't get people killed unless it's bad. But I feel like they're trying to have some wiggle room to negotiate here. They're worried about NATO. Now, NATO did expand under the previous administration. I do question the rate of expansion, and I do question expanding it when it's just the United States. This is entirely for the United States' own safety and protection. Yes, the other countries, but let's be real. It's for the United States. And look, I love my country. I have no problem in saying this. I pay taxes to this country. This country steals my income. So, but I do think it's important to just acknowledge that. Apparently that's a big bad thing to say, which it's so stupid that we have to sit here and couch our words and we're not doing that on this program. It does. Other countries are helped, but it's for the security of the United States so that communism doesn't spread. Communism is antithetical to freedom. But I get why I see why they're nervous. They're Russia. They don't like NATO. We allowed a lot of countries that I question their economic stability into NATO. Because if you're allowing countries that are not paying the percentage of their GDP as promised to their own damn self-defense with NATO, and it's the United States essentially facilitating it, and you're admitting in countries that are not economically stable, their governments are questionably stable, I mean, that creates a threat to our security as well, because if you have any kind of further destabilization, then that means everybody's got to jump in. Do you realize the increase, though, in conflict when you do that? So there's a lot of questions here. This is not an easy discussion. It really isn't. But I don't like where it's going. I don't like the tone of the president's remarks. I don't understand his purpose. I mean, he's standing there, as a friend of mine noted, he's wearing a pin for a country that we're shipping millions and millions worth of guns to in armament and giving billions upon billions of dollars to. And for what purpose? What is the purpose? What is the purpose? That's the one thing he didn't say in his speech. What is the purpose of all of this?